Hey, welcome back to Paradox Parkway, your home for paradoxes, pop culture, and fun. I'm your host, Steve Sikoryak. Hi. I don't know how long it's been since we saw each other, but you look great. Today, I'm going to sit down with legendary creator, producer, and puppeteer Sid Krofft. Sid, along with his brother Marty, created and produced a decade's worth of pop culture madness in the 1970s with TV shows like H R Pufnstuf, Land of the Lost, and so much more. So let's begin with a quick look back at that decade. And if you don't remember it, don't worry. After you watch this, you won't forget it.
H R Pufnstuf, who's your friend when things get rough? H R Pufnstuf, can't do a little 'cause you can't do enough.
The Bugaloos, we're in the air and everywhere, flying high, flying loose, flying free as a summer breeze.
Lidsville is the cookiest, Lidsville is the kickiest, Lidsville is the grooviest, Lidsville is the living end.
Friends, if you're young or old, everybody needs friends.
To the land of the lost.
Step right up, you won't believe your eyes at what those far-out spacemen find. And what those far-out spacemen find.
Something went wrong deep inside, and they can't get off of this crazy ride. Oh, where are we going in the lost saucer? Somebody help us in the lost saucer.
Wonderful! Wonderful! Faster than fast, smarter than smart, wonderful! Dr. Shrinker, he's a madman with an evil mind. Dr. Shrinker, he's as crazy as you'll ever find.
Electro woman and Dinah girl, fighting all evil deeds. Electro woman and Dinah girl.
Oh, how's that for a topper?
Sid Krofft is 92 years young, and all his life he's been an idea man. That decade of the 70s is just the middle of the story. There's 40 years before that, and 40 years after that, and today we're going to look back at his entire career. And we're going to find out where those ideas came from, and find out about the lesson he learned very young in life. Never listen to your parents. Now, there's one question that Sid has been asked over and over his entire life. It's one word, and it's puppets? And he always answers it the same way, with a one-word answer. You bet! Oh, I should have said yes. That's what I should have said, yes. Today, I want to welcome my special guest, creator, producer, puppeteer extraordinaire, Sid Krofft. Sid, welcome to Paradox Parkway.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for asking me. Thank you.
I've been looking back at your career, and I like to call it a century of entertainment.
Wow. I think it's more than a century, isn't it?
Have you
Yeah, because I think I told you this before, but I've been around since Lincoln was the president, right?
And how did Lincoln like the puppets? Was he a fan?
Oh, I don't think there were puppets in those days. Well, actually, it's the oldest form of entertainment. So there's been puppets, I guess, since the beginning of time.
As soon as somebody went like this,
Then it became a puppet. Yeah,
sure became a puppet.
thank you.
I did a little background check on you to see if you were legit.
Oh yeah. Oh, cool. Well, how did it come up?
It came out great. I realized that you just got a Walk of Fame star last year.
Yeah,
You and Marty.
February,
So that was great. Lifetime Achievement Award, It's About Time, in
Wow.
2018.
Yeah.
You had a TV Land Pop Culture Award, but I also like that you got a Saturn Award for science fiction. That's incredible.
Yeah, that was, I don't know how many years ago, but I remember right in the front row, Spielberg was there. Oh, there were a lot of cool people. And once again, in the middle of my speech, Marty told me to get off. Yeah, he always does that.
Yeah.
So
It's
what are you
just,
going to do? It's your brother. You cannot divorce your brother, right?
that is absolutely true. I'm the middle child of three brothers.
Okay.
And so I could tell you stories, but that's for another time.
Do you get along?
Oh, absolutely.
Really? Yeah, but do you work with them for 62 years?
I do not, but we
Right.
talk on the phone every week for about 2.5 to 3 hours,
Wow.
just shooting the breeze.
Well, let me ask you something. Am I included in those conversations? Because I always feel my ears burning, that there are people out there talking about me. I hope it's nice what they say.
It's always nice. Everyone comes up in our conversations because we talk about our influences and our favorites. And that's why I wanted to talk to you today, because the bulk of your work, this creative energy that you've done for all these years, is fantastic.
Well, don't get too carried away about it. Hey, thank you so much for the compliment. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
So I was wondering if you would, like I said, it's almost like a century of entertainment. I was gonna just kind of walk you through the decades to get a feel for how this all came about, because we often talk about creativity and just what triggers an idea and then turns into a project and then turns into madness. So
Well, I gotta tell you something. I do theater art departments, and what they really want to know is how you got started. I did see a puppet, my first puppet, in a live show, and it was a clown that blew up a balloon, and the balloon broke, and the clown became so sad, and I began to cry so loud that they threw me out of the theater. The audience was screaming at me. So that was my first experience with a puppet. Yeah.
that's great that you were so emotionally attached to the experience. That's great.
Well, that's what made me get my first puppet. It's amazing because I didn't come from a show business family at all. I was like a little one-man show, starting at 10 years old, seeing an ad in a Superman comic book for a puppet that was $3.95. And I went to my dad, and he was furious with me. He said, first of all, you're a boy and you want a dolly, and $3.95 could feed your family for weeks, and it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And in that same magazine, or a comic book, actually, there was an ad for, if you sent away for a box of Christmas cards, 100, and sold them for 50 cents, you could keep a nickel. So without even asking or telling my parents, I don't know how many I sent away for. And after school, in the middle of July, I was like a little street, what do they call them? Selling your stuff out there without a license. Oh, I don't think in those days you needed a license. And that's how I really started.
So what happened? You eventually got it, and how did you?
Well, I got my puppet. When I finally put an act together, I auditioned for an agent in New York in the Brill Building. The Brill Building on Broadway is for music, but
Mhm.
I don't know why. He had this little tiny office. And my agent in Providence, Rhode Island, hooked me up with him because we moved to the Bronx in New York.
Mhm.
This is 1944. And so, wow, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I'm still here to tell the story. I had a Victrola for my music,
Right.
and all he had was a pencil, a pad, a phone, and a couple of pictures hanging on the wall of a couple of acts that he probably, uh, handled. And I auditioned right in his little office, and he said, "I first of all, I can't sell a puppet act because I book nightclubs." I said, "Nightclubs? I'm 14 years old. I can't work in a nightclub." And he said, I booked the Catskill Mountains and vaudeville theaters, one nighters." He said, "You've got to get rid of the word puppet because there's no way that's for little kids. There's no way I can sell that."
Somewhere along the lines, I read, the unusual artistry of Sid Krofft. I read that quote. Was that a title you went by for a while?
Here I am, I'm 14 or close to being 15, and couldn't wait to be 15. And so I got that idea. I don't know where, because those are big words, the unusual artistry of Sid Krofft. And so that's how they introduced my act. And then it was a surprise. But I don't know, my whole career, especially going to different elevations with my act, making it better and better and better as I got older, getting more jobs. Oh my God, I was the opening act for Judy Garland.
Yeah,
Can
that's
you
amazing.
imagine? Well, no, can you imagine a puppet act playing Las Vegas? It was unheard of. A puppet act in a gambling joint, run by the mafia. That was a huge, huge leap for me. When I appeared with Judy Garland,
Mhm.
I toured with her for over a year. But the first engagement was in Vegas, the Flamingo Hotel. The maitre d', when a maitre d' and a busboy and a waiter comes up to you and says, "Hey kid, that's a really cool act," then you've got something because they see everything. Every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, there's a new show. After Judy Garland's engagement, I toured with her, but the Flamingo signed me to come back 3 times a year with other stars. I came back, I think I was appearing with the Andrew sisters. Do you know who they were? Yeah.
Some of my favorites.
Wow. And the Mills brothers and Pearl Bailey. I worked with Pearl Bailey there, huge star. When I played Miami, there was a vaudeville theater there called the Olympia.
Mhm.
And I worked there a lot. And with Mickey Rooney, I think he had a show, a whole company, And Martha Ray, she had a club there, and we hung out. So she was a really good friend of mine. Yeah. Billy Barty, talk about Miami and the Olympia Theater. I worked with him, Spike Jones. Remember the City Slickers?
You're talking my wheelhouse. Just so you know, I'm 61. So
Yeah, well, I'm 92, so you're just a kid.
I'm just a kid. But I'm telling you, I love the 40s. Abbott Costello, Andrew Sisters, Martha Ray, Spike
Oh,
Jones.
yeah.
Just keep it coming, Sid. I love it.
No, there's no one like that, because they created in the time all their music and their personalities. That was the time when there was vaudeville or the end of vaudeville. There were so many places to develop your talent. Today, boom, you come in, you're a star. and you didn't have any background, you know. So and they're all pros, you know. It's show business, real show business
Yeah.
when you mention those people's names. But today, you know, uh, they
Yep.
don't they don't have that.
Into the 50s, and if I pronounce it right, Le Poupée de Paris, your puppet show.
Well, that was 61,
61.
and I gave up my act in 59, and
Mhm.
Marty joined me as my assistant in 58. So he wasn't on stage. He handed me the puppets off stage,
Mhm.
and he just spent less than a year with my act, and then Les Poupées de Paris, everything stopped with my act. I never did it again after that. But Les Poupées de Paris was a huge, huge undertaking. It's probably the biggest marionette show ever produced. You know, it took months to install the stage, which had, oh my God, elevators, ice rink, real ice. The whole stage turned into a swimming pool, real water, you know, and it rained and there was waterfalls and fireworks and, you know, all the effects you can think of, you know.
Did that grow from a simple idea, or did you envision the entire giant production?
No, what happened when the maitre d' came one night, he wanted to have a meeting with me in his office. And he said, you know, I've been in Vegas for a zillion years. I have a lot of money saved and I want to get the hell out of here. And I want to open up my own uh, sort of like a mini Disneyland kind of an operation. I don't mean Disneyland with rides or anything, but he wanted to have a restaurant, a disco, a combination of so many rooms that you could spend the whole night there. And he said, I'd like to have a puppet there. And I said, but my act's only like, I don't know, 12 minutes, 15 minutes long. And he said, no, you'll come up with something. Well, I just closed at the Lido before that in Paris. And I worked in that show for over a year. And the Folie Bergère, and, you know, I knew all those big French shows. Uh, Actually, if you don't have kids watching, they call them tits and ass, right? Those shows. And if you have to edit it, just edit that out. Put a bleep on it. But anyway, and that was what Les Poupées de Paris was. You had to be 21 years old. That was the gimmick because the women, I'm talking about puppets, you didn't have bras, you know. And so it was nude, you know, like big showgirls and huge production numbers and all those effects and,
Yeah.
you know, and of course it put us on the map, totally on the map. It
Yeah.
played to 9.5 million people, a puppet show, you know.
And am I right? Did you have celebrity voices
Oh yeah, oh
for the
huge,
puppets?
yeah, huge. I mean, there's an album out, if you can find it. Sammy Kahn, Jimmy Van Heusen wrote the score, and one of the songs in a puppet show, "Love Is a Bore," was Barbara Streisand's. Not in the show. She recorded it in her People album, and it became a huge hit for her. And it came from a puppet show. What about that? You know,
That's terrific.
so it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
So this same show played in the Seattle World's Fair, New York World's Fair as well?
You know, and the San Antonio World's Fair and Broadway, off Broadway, in Las Vegas for 2 years. There were two companies. It was a very hard show to set up because it was so huge.
Yeah.
There were 250 puppets in that show, you know,
Crazy.
and so it was amazing. It really was an amazing show. It hasn't been done since I don't know, 62 years ago.
Well, that was quite a journey from a single puppet all the way to Vegas, Paris, Broadway. Who knew? And that's just the beginning of the story, or the end of the beginning of the story, because now we're going to begin the middle of the story and find out where that middle story ends. Yeah, I said that right.
So next in your career was television, and I know the Banana Splits was 68. So between the World's Fair ending and that, were you looking for something different to do, or?
No, because at the New York World's Fair, the owner of Six Flags, Angus Wynn, they were building a new Six Flags in Atlanta. He came to us and said that the Coca-Cola company would be interested in sponsoring our show, and they would build a theater that sat 1,200 people. I said, well, we can't do Les Poupées de Paris. That's for adults only, you know. And he said, well, come up with another idea. I said, well, at first I said, it really does not interest me because I know it's teenagers. What are we going to do? Like, they're not going to like Pinocchio, or, you know, what kind of a puppet show would I do that they would, you know, be attracted to? Because I knew there were 90 rides and teenagers are not going to come in to see a puppet show, you know. That's not going to intrigue them.
Right.
And so I did come up with an idea, and actually the first show was called Circus. In a way, it had nothing to do, very little to do with circus, because it started off with as big as the theater. I had a flying saucer came in to where the stage was, and it opened up, and that was supposedly the stage of the show. So it was a really like an acid trip for teenagers, the show.
Yeah.
And we became the #1 attraction. They offered us to build their rides. We never did anything like that.
Yeah.
To be their creative heads of the parks. And they set us up in a what we called the show business factory, right behind the Burbank Airport, and where we employed over 250 people.
That was
And-
your production company?
Yeah, where we built all the stuff that they needed.
Yep.
And so that's how that all started. And I didn't want to close our doors in April. So we opened it up to the industry, and Hanna-Barbera came in with the Banana Splits.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the Banana Splits walked out with the costumes that we created and built, those characters, I said to my brother, wow, they're going to make millions of dollars. And why did we do that? You know, and the NBC heard that conversation and said, why don't you guys come up with a show, H R Pufnstuf? And that's, if our H R Pufnstuf didn't work, we wouldn't be talking today, because if that didn't work, all those other shows wouldn't have happened. You
Yeah.
know? It was a really hard job for everybody because of having such a small budget. We couldn't do more than 2 takes,
Oh, really?
and we didn't even want to do 2 takes.
Yep.
because the clock is just ticking all day long, you know. And we lost, actually, Pufnstuf cost us, and we almost lost our company because of it, cost us over $1 million, those 17 shows. And nobody would help. You know, the network wanted more, but didn't want to pay more. And
Yeah.
so that's show business.
Yeah. It's amazing you had a different show every year, basically.
Yeah, they all three networks used to wait for me to come in and present a book. We never did a pilot.
Mhm.
They just believed everything I said, you know. And so it was amazing.
I love the work environment of you said of your production company, that the work was so much fun. I'm sure they loved working in that environment.
Well, yeah, you know, I hear the echo of my name all day long. That was the only, I couldn't let them know that they were all driving me out of my mind, because all day long, all I heard was Sid, 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 you know, in our art department or whatever department. They wanted to know, you know, where's the next idea. It was a lot of pressure, but then when I look back, it really wasn't. I don't know where it all came from. The casting, a lot of them were my friends that I talked into, you know, uh, doing a kid show, because every one of them said to me, you know, oh my God, you're going to ruin my career. We don't want to do a little kiddie show.
Someone like Martha Ray.
Oh, when I approached her for the movie, the Pufnstuf movie, you know, we did that movie for $1 million. You know, I mean, today it would be, even that movie would be 100 million. Yeah, you know, because it was so big, the sets and all that stuff.
Yep.
And the cast, and she was actually the third choice, because I had two other ideas, and Betty Davis was one of them, and
Really?
yeah, and she gave me the finger, you know, and hung up on me. I've gotten that a couple of times in my career, so not even the finger, but those words,
Mhm.
and you know,
Who was the other? Who was the other one? You said she was third. Martha Ray. Do you remember?
yeah. Wow, what was his name? Flip Wilson.
Flip Wilson.
Yeah, I wanted Geraldine, because he did that famous drag, you know, that character. And I thought, wouldn't it be incredible to not only have a black witch, but a man playing her? And I approached him, and he wanted to do it, but he was asking for, I don't, if the movie, we only had $1 million, I'm sure Universal offered him maybe $10,000, you know. And he was a big star at that
I was
time.
gonna say he was red hot. His show was on the air then, so
Oh yeah,
it was red hot. So.
it was the #1 show, and that's an idea that I had. And then Betty Davis, I thought, would really be outrageous, you know. And then of course we ended up with Martha Ray, and then Martha Ray did Bonita Bazaar and the Bugaloos.
Yep.
That took an army to talk her into that, but she loved doing that character. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure Charles Nelson Riley. I'm sure those guys love that
But-
campy
yeah,
opportunity.
No, he did not.
Ooh.
No, he was also a friend of mine. No, Charles Nelson Riley, I mean, he just hated that green makeup and that skull cap and that character. He didn't realize, after he did that character and you saw him on the Tonight Show, or he was doing that voice, that crazy character. And it came from Lidsville. And to this day, a kid show still, you know, is alive. you know,
Yeah.
and people know the song. I wrote that opening
Oh,
song.
did you?
Yeah, and they know the characters, and of course Billy Hayes, Winnie the Genie, because oh God, I love Billy Hayes. She was great.
Yeah.
You know, whatever we could put her in, that was the pro to end all pros. I mean, never gave us a problem. You know, Land of the Lost was a gem. You know, it was unreal that we had a show with adult material for kids, and the kids went crazy. Nobody ever offered them anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, on Saturday morning.
I can tell you that my brothers and I were so excited to see dinosaurs and animated dinosaurs
Yeah.
that was
Nobody ever saw that.
not,
No, that was way before Jurassic Park, and
Yep.
yeah, way before that.
and
And
Saturday morning animation. We were like, sign me up. This is terrific.
that was Star Trek, because we had all the people from Star Trek. It was canceled. We had David Gerald, you know, and he was the crown jewel of Land of the Lost. And that's why it was such a huge hit. It was our biggest hit, was Land of the Lost. Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, that was another big one for us. You know.
So I'm gonna switch to a guilty pleasure of mine.
Okay.
Like I said, this Paradox Parkway thing is, I like pop culture, but I also like time travel. And you have your show, The Lost Saucer, with Jim Nabors and Ruth Buzzy,
Yeah.
which is a time travel show. Tell me a little about that, if you would.
Well, what is there to say? Every year we had to come up with something, you know, like Pufnstuf, you know, Bugaloos, Lidsville. They weren't alike, but it was like almost the same kind of a story.
Yeah, it had the basic appeal of a kid with an
Yeah,
opportunity
always, yeah.
to go into a strange land and
Yeah,
have
Wizard of Oz. That's where I swiped it from.
Yeah.
Everything's been done. It's just the way you approach it.
right.
Okay. And then came Land of the Lost, because in 1940, uh, 1 million BC, with Victor Mature.
Yep.
That was like devastating. That really left me for the rest of my life. I remembered that movie, seeing dinosaurs.
Mhm.
So that's where that idea came from. So because Land of the Lost was such a big hit, we had to do a space flying saucer. That was an area we hadn't,
Yeah.
you know, tackled yet. Or again, Jim Nabors was a huge star. You know, he had his own show. He did concerts. He guest starred on every variety show because he sang and people loved
Yeah,
that.
he had two voices.
He had two voices. And when I knew him, and when I approached him, oh my God, he really let me have it. He said, I like you, but I got to tell you something. Don't even, ask me again, because I'm not going from a nighttime show to a kid show. What does that mean? That my career is over? I mean, it was hard coming up with, we did 26 television series, 26. I mean, it's amazing. Now, a whole big bunch of them didn't come from my head. Ruby and Spears, a lot of their ideas came from them, but we had to put it into live action because all those ideas came from their world, which was cartoons or animation. Yeah.
Right.
There was a big battle going on between the three networks and what kind of programming. So they approached us and said, would you be interested in doing an hour, 15-minute shows, and to really talk us into it, they said we'll even call it the Krofft Super Show. Well, ego trip, me and Marty. Wow, we're gonna have a show for an hour with our name on it. Yes, we'll do it. And so that's how that happened.
We've come a long way, but now the best part of all, the magic behind the ideas, how it all gets created, the secrets of Sid's success, all will be revealed. Well, not all, just the secret stuff.
Continuing through our journey through the decades, so you had all this success and cost in the 70s.
Well, what happened? We were out of kids television because we went to nighttime. We were doing Downey Marie.
And you said about getting into late night and producing other shows, but you're also the two that I forgot about, honestly, were DC Follies.
Oh, I love DC Follies.
Yeah.
It should have been the last 4 years. Can you imagine? How we could have ripped him apart. But Marty, he likes doing reboot.
Mhm.
I don't like that. I usually have nothing to do with a reboot. I've already done it. I
Yeah.
want to go onward.
By something else. Yep.
Not with a new idea, and even the Land of the Lost movie. Don't even talk to me about that. But yeah, and
But
but we got it done. $200 million.
yeah,
Movie.
I completely sympathize with the disappointment of the rebooting stuff. But on the other hand, it's nice that people like your content. Like that it lives on 30 years later.
I'm just amazed that people have taken all of our shows with them all these years. Can you name shows that were on 50 and 60 years ago and they remember the characters, the songs? I mean, that blows me away totally. I just can't believe it.
But that's what makes them so special, all those shows, because if you think of the early 70s kids TV, it's all cartoons. That's the only thing with
Yeah.
larger than life characters. I mean, I think that's why it resonates and survives, because it's like, I absolutely remember.
But you know what else we did, and I'm proud of it, just like Land of the Lost, we didn't put a kid down. They were in school 5 days a week, and the jokes and everything were adults. And because in those days, mom and dad used to sit with their kids and watch television with them. If mom and dad laughed and the kid didn't even know why they're laughing, they laugh with them. But years later, they became a fan of those shows. When they grew up, they said, oh my God, that's hysterical. Dr. Blinky's House, an example. They wanted me to have messages. I said, no, kids are not going to like that. Let me do it in a sneaky way. Dr. Blinky's House had a fireplace. It smoked too much, and it had a terrible cough, the house. And the house was on crutches. And every time all those characters left that house, the house sneezed, coughed, and blew them all away. Things like that. Kids absolutely love visuals like that,
One thing I was going to say, what you just said about kids laughing, or kids not getting it, but the parents laughing.
Yeah.
As a kid, now suddenly you're even more hooked. You're like, why was that funny? I don't get it.
Yeah.
I want to know.
I want to know. Yeah. No, it's great.
I completely understand the what are we gonna do next thing. But in between Sigmund and Seamuch, you got the water scene, you got the dinosaur scene, you got the outer space thing, you got
Yeah, every department I could think of, you know, it was crazy. It was just crazy. But, you know, Lidsville came from, I love hats, you know, and, you
it
know,
works for me.
yeah, and I was running one day and my hat flew off and I was running after my favorite hat. That day I was supposed to come back with an idea. The art department was waiting. And because that hat ran away from me, you know, that's where that idea came from. I went, oh my God, hats. Everybody relates to a hat. They have their favorite hat. A magician pulls a rabbit out of that, you know, and it just rolled. You know, me driving back to work that day, I got so excited about, you know, I couldn't wait to run into the art department and say, I think I remember My Fair Lady, that song. I think I got it.
I'm sure it was fun to deliver the idea too, because like, wait till you hear this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, everybody just, you know, I don't know. They all thought I needed a doctor all the time because my head is always, you know, thinking all the time. I'm always thinking about ideas. When you come up with an idea, and everybody out there is going to relate to this, you think about it and you think you got a great idea, and then in your mind, you try to work it out and you hit a brick wall, a huge brick wall, and you go, oh my God, that's not a good idea. That sounds awful. But then you love the idea so much that it makes you work harder, your mind, and you go, wait a minute. No, I'm not going to drop that idea. I just got to figure out how I can make it work. Because I don't approach an artist or a writer before I feel comfortable about an idea, you know, and I don't want to. I don't want to embarrass myself, I guess. I don't know what it is, or, you know, I just want to come in with something solid and then let them, you know, use their creativity, take it further.
This is why I wanted to talk to you, because what you just said, I love that, because it's the excitement of coming up with the idea, the struggle with making it work, the extra effort it takes to make it work.
It's great for your mind. It really is, because it forces you, you know, to make it work if you believe in something. And I will say one thing, because I'm asked many questions, you know, how do I begin in the business? How, you know, like what you asked me, how did you get the ideas and everything? You know, my whole life, and I feel very strong about this. Stay focused. When you get an idea, don't be all over the place, you know, and really work as hard as you can on that idea, because if you got a spark, you got something going. Don't drop it, you know, and just work on it and make it work, you know. And that goes for whatever profession, you know, we have, or love, or whatever.
Right. I would, if I could be so bold, I think with your Instagram, what you're just talking about, your new project with your talking about these, I think that's a great point to bring up from time to time. Besides talking about the shows themselves, just like the encouragement to continue with an idea, because
No, that's so important, because so many people I know, they're just like, they're all over the place, you know, And I said, calm down, just focus in on one thing, get it done, go to the next thing. You know, easy for me to say that. And because it's difficult. It really is to come up with creativity. And I got to tell you something. Pufnstuf, whoa, it was, I mean, there was too much. There was too much at the beginning, too many characters, the sets were too, expensive. They constantly, my brother came to me and said, you got to cut half of the stuff. We can't afford it. I said, no, just I'm not cutting anything. Let me figure out how to do it, cheaper, or how to, instead of having big sets, I said, give me a psych. I'm on Saturday morning. They're watching cartoons. I want Pufnstuf to look like an animated, just give me a blue psych. I'm going to hang 3 clouds cut out of plywood. I'm going to cut some trees out of plywood. I'm going to paint the floor. Nobody ever did anything like that. And it worked. It worked. But I didn't don't cut creativity. Don't do that. No.
Was that basically a relationship with your brother, that
Oh,
you were bringing in the creativity and he was bringing in the structure, and then you found the balance to make this work?
Well, my brother is like the business end, and so, it's all about coming in on budget.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to work with your brother. But, especially for 62 years. And I keep saying 3 more years and I can collect Social Security again, right? 65, yeah. So I gotta just bite my lip, and 3 more years, and then I've had it.
I have to thank you so much for this talk.
Well, thank you, Steve. Thank you.
I was going to, one last question was, any projects over the years that didn't materialize that you really
Oh
wish?
yeah, tons. Are you kidding? Yeah, I've got 16 projects that nobody has ever seen yet. 16 full. I want to see it in living color when I have an idea. It's just not on a piece of paper.
Yep.
So yeah, but you know what you do? You put it aside. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, is it 10 years from now or 15 years from now? It becomes valuable. It
Something
becomes
clicked.
valuable.
Yeah.
It's just not the right time,
Yep.
or you borrow from that idea on another idea that you have.
Yep.
I have done that. I borrow little things. Yeah, I'm working on a huge project right now, and they can't understand how I come up with all these ideas. Well, I'm borrowing. Okay.
Everybody borrows. You borrow. No stealing, just borrowing.
But I borrow from myself. Yeah. Okay, if that makes sense.
Yep, it does. I could talk to you for hours.
No.
But we've talked for an hour, and
We have, Steve. Wow, an hour. I
know.
hope we haven't bored. That I didn't bore anybody out there.
I'll
but-
cut out all my parts, and then we'll keep all the good parts.
No. Your questions are great, and I thank you for that. And if you watch me on Instagram, everybody, I go live every Sunday at 3:00, and I've had some great guests. We're going to show all of our shows were like 23 minutes long, without commercials, and we're going to show a new show every week behind me, and I'll critique it, and then you can ask me questions about it. So many people out there keep saying, where can I get a copy? You know, oh, I would love to see it again. I saw it when I was a kid and whatever.
Yeah.
So I probably have a couple of hundred shows. So I'll be on for another couple of 100 weeks, I guess.
That sounds great.
So check me out, and thank you so much, Steve.
We'll absolutely do that.
for
Thank
asking me.
Yep. Thank you, Sid. I cannot
Okay.
thank you enough. Kelly, thank you for your help as
Yeah.
well. You're still
Yeah.
there.
Yes, she is. Thank
Thanks
you.
again, Sid. Have a
Okay.
terrific day.
And you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, that's the big show. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching. And I want to thank my special guest, Sid Krofft, one more time. Thank you, Sid. Really enjoyed having you on the show. And make sure to check Sid out every Sunday on Instagram. And make sure you check out me on paradoxparkway.com and anywhere you can find Paradox Parkway. Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to show you. Hold on. Paradox Parkway shirts are now available in gray, green, and blue with the Paradox Parkway logo on the front and great moments in time travel history on the back. Get them today at paradoxparkway.com shop. And here's our final thought for the day. Remember, you are unique, just like everybody else.